Neil, show number 797.
That's right.
But who's counting?
I got it right. I don't remember any of them.
I just uploaded about 15 shows last night. I was slacking.
Oh, upload them
6
to
hours.
YouTube?
Worked on the website for 6 hours last night.
Holy smokes, you put in some overtime.
Oh, yeah.
Works your
Okay,
fingers
so
to the bone.
you can go to offthelip.com.
OffTheLipRadio.com.
Yep, offthelipradio.com.
YouTube,
of course.
All the major podcast platforms.
Right, or you can also go to Santa Cruz Waves and look through the videos.
Yeah.
Because on there, you can actually watch the show.
That's right.
Which is beautiful. So, by the way, everybody, welcome back. Show number 797 of the Off the Lip Radio Show, live from the Santa Cruz boardroom. And tonight, yes, John Mel is back.
Your mentor, your teacher.
You know, I don't give John enough credit because I will talk about that, but it's true. He was a big part of my life, and I feel like a huge part of my small success. And we brought his brother Michael tonight.
Yeah, just
first time on the show.
First time.
Yeah, well, he's going to just make sure the stories are true.
Well, we got a fact checker.
Yeah. Also that, but Michael is also a legendary skateboarder. He'll have to tell you that story.
And I do want to delve into that, and we will, because you've already told me some things that shocked me about you that I didn't know about. So we'll get into that.
I mean, I have one spectator tonight. Fig.
Surf City Sandwiches here.
One spectator.
We got a sellout crowd.
Sellout
crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great. And I heard you brought...
It would be Compton. Be Compton to get in the door.
Free ticket?
Free, yeah, free.
Aren't you going to put him on the hot seat?
Yeah, we will. Yeah. We'll get him in
You
here.
got to get him on the hot
We're
seat.
going to find out about what's going on
bit.
in Arizona, the new wave pool. We'll get to that. But welcome, John, back.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
I think the last time I was there was when you were in the old radio station.
At KSCO.
Where there's a beautiful John Mel surfboard.
I keep driving by to see if it's still there.
Still hanging?
Because yeah, it is. It's still there.
Yeah.
I know it. They
We should have
they
walked
tried
away
to
with that,
sell
TC.
they tried
station.
Station, and they never did.
We should have walked out with that thing.
I just want to know, somebody told me that you donated that board to KSCO.
Well, I loaned it, is the way I remember it.
Okay, so you loaned it. So is that your surfboard in there?
Yeah, it is.
Do they know that?
Well, the guy Jim, who was the guy? Swirling.
Yeah.
When he was, I don't know what the circumstances was, and he said, well, we need a surfboard to hang there. I said, well, here, you can use this one, is the way I recall it.
How many years ago was that?
Jeez, I don't know. You asked me years.
Okay,
I have to consult my brother Michael because he has a better memory than I do.
Michael, how many years was that? Well, that's a Stinger swallowtail with an amazing airbrush on it.
The airbrush is done by a guy named Jim Rhodes, who's was a Moss Landing local guy. He used to surf down there, and I remember I shaped the board for him. It was for him, and he came in and airbrushed it, and then we finished it. And I can't recall how I came into possession of it again. But I'm claiming ownership, you know.
I want to mention one thing that we talked about doing dinner. John Mel's memory.
There are
from 1966 until now, he doesn't remember shit.
Some shit is really clear. Other shit.
We're going to sign the memory waiver. The memory waiver has been signed.
Every answer, maybe. I don't know.
Well, you had a pretty exciting childhood, right? I mean, you were a product of the 60s?
Yeah. We were lucky. Our father was a school teacher. We lived in Needles, California, Compton, and then we moved to the South Bay in probably, 54 maybe.
54.
And so we grew up, I could ride my bike down to the beach. We grew up surfing Torrance Beach. And
how did you discover surfing?
I remember there's a surf spot down there. Well, I probably won't mention the name of it.
Secret. Shh.
It's a left. It comes along the rocks there. And I remember my dad was an avid fisherman, and he kind of passed that on to all of us. We all enjoyed fishing. And I remember walking out to this rocky spot and seeing a guy riding this left, a guy named John Gray. How do I remember that?
Wow, okay. Selective memory.
I remember seeing him ride a wave along that thing. I thought that's pretty cool. And, we could hang out at Torrance Beach. That was where our local beach was. And back then, I didn't really ride a surfboard, but you could rent for about 50 cents a day a surf mat. So, we'd go down and rent a surf mat, and you could, ride it on your belly and grind your nipples off, and ride it on your knees and grind your kneecaps off.
And just so you don't know, a surf mat was the original boogie board, just so you know.
So, and to go full circle, 2 days ago, I ordered a fourth gear flyer, which is a modern
Surf mat?
Yes, from Paul Gross, I think is his name. He's one of Reno's buddies down there. So I'm going to go full circle.
So are we going to see you on a surf mat?
Well, you probably won't, because usually surf mat guys like to pick out the crappiest wave so there's nobody else out there. You can have a wave that's this big, it's over your head. You can go over kelp. It's a wonderful way to stay in the water. I mean, the thing that I'm finding now in my advanced age is the get up is really hard. Once we get up, we know what we're doing, but getting up there is the hardest thing. So, I've always kind of been a kneeboarder, but I've sort of been proselytizing kneeboarding to my aging friends that say, I can't get to my feet anymore. Well, get up to your knees. You're still riding waves.
Yeah.
So
Just a matter of being in the water. Well,
Yeah.
I always considered you to be a waterman because you're a surfer, a kneeboarder, a windsurfer. I mean, you rode every surfboard.
we all kind of did that. I mean, windsurfing was a really great complement to surfing because in the afternoon when it would blow out, you could go up the coast and ride waves. I mean, what a perfect supplement sport. So, instead of my wife seeing me half a day, she would see me the whole day.
That worked out great. Well, I find it interesting with you, John, because I think maybe your kneeboard background gave this to you, but you were never afraid to dive into what's next. And kind of a pioneer. We can talk about the background with Burton snowboards. You were the first dealer in California to sell Burton snowboards.
Well, Kim grew up with Jake Carpenter. She came from the East Coast, and Jake was from the same area of Long Island. And when Jake was about 15 years old, he used to come out and spend the summer with us. And he was, he's a kneeboarder too, actually. I don't know if you ever knew that.
I knew that. You made kneeboards for Jake.
Yeah, I made some kneeboards for Jake. But he was also, when he was starting to build the business, he was trying to figure out ways to build Burton boards. So he came out, and I said, hey, there's a shaping room. Go for it, bro. I remember leaving him with a few kneeboard blanks, and he would make a lot of foam.
What's crazy is I remember that. And I thought he was crazy. But I remember him shaping a foam kneeboard in your shaping room.
Well, he also shaped a foam Burton board.
Right, exactly. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
He shaped a foam. Do you know, I was telling you this earlier in the night, because I was going to sell that Burton board.
Right.
And I got into discussions with pioneers of Burton snowboards. Those boards still exist.
I heard that he had kept them. That's pretty cool.
No, there's a collector who has collected those foam Burton boards, and they still exist.
Well, back in those days, it was really there wasn't really a sport. And I remember coming out. He would come out and spend the summer with us, and then going into the winter, he'd come out a few times, and we'd try to go snowboarding, but none of the resorts would allow you to snowboard. So I remember there was a resort, I think it might have been Sierra Ski Ranch, that had an old abandoned run at the front of their thing. So, since they wouldn't let us on the slopes, we would take 3 or 4 guys, and the road went up and dropped you off at the top of the top of the run. So all 3 guys would jump out, and one guy would drive the car in the back. We'd just take turns doing that run there. So that's how we could get out and try them out.
Wow. Well, it's crazy to think that that was such the effect that Jake Burton had on that industry is enormous, and that you were there.
He was an amazing guy. He kind of came from a background of a wealthy family. His father was, I think, in the banking industry, and he wanted Jake to go in the banking industry. And I think Jake actually did sometime in that industry, but he also was a very smart guy, and he was just a pioneer, and he wouldn't say no. He just kept going for it. And he basically built that whole sport. He was instrumental in the beginning of building that sport.
And he's the man. Speaking of fathers, did your father have plans for you? Or did you,
I was the eldest of 5 boys and a girl, and, he struggled to put me in a private school. I got a great education in a very small high school called Chadwick, and when I graduated, I went to Santa Barbara and surfed my brains out, and flunked out, and moved
Campus
back
Point,
again.
right there?
Yeah, it was a great year.
Is that when you started your walk from Santa Barbara to Santa Cruz?
Is that what?
Oh, he was walking back to LA, right?
Your walk.
Well, we had many.
Okay, let's interject. Go there.
No.
Michael, the big brother during that time?
Yeah.
Did you see it when he was in Santa Barbara? Did you know when his path was going to be?
Well, I think I knew before that. He was one of the first surfers in our area in the South Bay, Torrance Beach. which, despite the really crappy waves, produced a lot of really great surfers. You know, the Irons family, Rick Irons, Phil Irons, Jim Irons, Denny Tompkins, Jeff Hackman used to surf there.
They all left town, huh?
Well, yeah.
You grow up and you leave and go for better ways.
Yep.
You know, he was part of that first generation, and being the younger brother, of course, me and all my friends wanted to do what the big boys were doing, so we got into surfing actually at a younger age than they did, after they did, but we were, John's 6 years older than me, so I think I probably started surfing about 11, and you probably started at, what, 14 or 15, maybe, something like that. But we were fortunate to live walking distance from the beach, pretty long walk, but we could do it. And so we did that, and then, you know, like I said, the surf wasn't very good there, so we got into skateboarding because that was kind of the closest thing to surfing, and we just wanted to do what the big boys did.
Get it.
Yeah.
When did you decide that I'm going to try playing with foam and make surfboards?
Well, I started doing that probably when I went to Santa Barbara, came back to it was an era when boards were starting to change a little bit, and everybody, for some reason, the group around us started to build boards. I shaped a board, my next door neighbor shaped a board. We're just kind of trying stuff. And
I can tell you when. It was 1967.
There, see, that's
We
what we
needed you here. Fact checker.
And I'd like to describe the first board that John made.
And where was it? Did you shape it here in
He
Santa Cruz?
shaped it, I think, in our garage.
Yeah.
Was it
This
pretty?
was in Redondo Beach.
Okay.
pretty bad.
Well, it was kind of lumpy. I think it was like 10-6,
was
something
big.
like
It was
that.
big.
It was really big, pintail, 3 redwood stringers, like 2 3/4-inch stringers, and a 1/4-inch stringer down the middle. That's kind of what I remember. Not all that symmetrical, but the glass.
That was
job.
always my mark.
But the
glass job?
The glass job. I think, John, I'm sorry for telling this,
No,
but
that's-
I think at the time he didn't really know that when you glass a board, it wraps around the rails. So he glassed up to the edge on the top, cut it off right at the edge of the rail, and then glassed up from the bottom, cut it off. So the thing leaked.
Double zipper.
It probably weighed 40 pounds new, and after going in the water the first time, it probably weighed 60 pounds.
Lesson learned, right?
So the
First
first-
lesson.
I do remember that board though, and I think the only place it ever worked was north of Trestles. There's a big left there. I can't remember. I think we call it Spence Post. There's
Yeah,
called
Cotton's,
Points
yeah.
now. And you know, we had a big face to ride. That's the only place I could ever get that board to work.
So it's like the Titanic, it was doomed,
Kind of,
right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
did you buy that blank?
Yeah, at one point when I started shaping, Clark would not sell blanks. The surfboard Gestapo would not allow
Mafia.
blanks. Mafia would not allow sale of blanks to individual people. So there was a company called False Foam that would sell their reject blanks with gaping holes in it to, you know, the doofus that would walk in the door like me, and you know, so they could have a chance to build a board. So a lot of the boards that were built in that time had little flowers or designs covering the major holes. That were
Loved it. Were you hooked? Did it get you?
Yeah, I kind of did. I mean, I built model cars as a kid. You know, those little Rebel kits. You would do that, and it's funny. I've talked to several other board builders, and they got the like of the glue smell, I guess, which drew them to resin. So
That's where it all
so
starts.
I got kicked out of my house, and then I started building boards at Kim's house, my wife's house, and I got kicked out of there. And then I moved down to San Diego, and I was living with my friend Brian. And I remember shaping boards out in the middle of a field where the sports arena was, because I had no place to work. I'd go out there with a little hand plane, you know, and be cutting this, and the foam would be flying out of the field. And stuff.
God.
He was not a natural, I would say.
Oh, Mike, I'm glad I brought you
Yeah.
Yeah, he's billing you.
He made a couple of boards for me. I remember he made me a board, and we were surfing. I was surfing with Phil Irons at Swami's, and for some reason we swapped boards. And Phil always had good boards because he was on the Jacobs team, and I was on the John team. And he rode one wave, and he gave it back, and he said, "I can't even sit on this board."
That's the first time I've heard that story.
Oh, my God.
Thank you for sharing.
Wow. Okay.
But I mean, obviously he got better. I mean, you went to work shaping for Gordon Smith. I think probably you must have learned.
Yeah, I learned a bunch there. That was a lucky break for me, and that's kind
And
of
how did that happen? I mean, that was.
I was friends with some people that worked in the factory there, and his whole gig was in the summertime he would take more orders than he could ever build. So he had a crew. Actually started building his crew up for during the summertime, and I walked in the door, and I shaped a few boards, and I knew somebody to kind of get me in the door, and he had me kind of, the way they used to build boards then was pretty revolutionary at the time. They were using sort of a rudimentary shaping machine. They would have certain models. They would have a blank over here and a board over here, and they had a guy that kind of ran back and forth with, kind of like what a pantograph is, where it's a replicator. And you'd do that, and then they'd go back to the shaper, and you'd finish the shaping there. So
Because they were producing a lot of surfboards.
They produced a lot of surfboards, mostly to the East Coast. And then at the end of the summer, they sort of, okay, you're done, thanks guys. But I got to work there for 3 or 4 months. I learned a lot. I learned about the production and the proper way to wrap rails, all that kind of stuff. The technical stuff.
Razor blades.
And that also allowed me to get married because I got a real job. So I asked Kim to marry me, and we got married. So
How old are you then? You think?
I was 22, I think.
22.
She was 20.
And when did you meet Kim? You were.
She was in my sister's class at Chadwick, and I met her. I met her at a beach party, actually.
Is it beach party? Like a dance party?
No, just one of the guys had a house down at the beach, and I met her. So,
How long did you?
So
how long did it take for you to ask her to marry you?
well, probably 3 years ish. I won't tell the story that's related to that.
Did your dad approve?
Her dad was really not thrilled at all.
Because you were shaping boards in our house.
Well, I
Well, that
shaped
was-
boards in the house.
And here too.
No, that's before there. They had a little. They lived up in Palos Verdes. They had a little bunkhouse, which was kind of the hangout spot. And in the back there was a little shed there, and I used to shape boards back there. And
Probably unknown to the parents too.
pardon me.
Probably unknown to the parents.
No, they were aware of it. But all right, Johnny, you ready to move on there, buddy?
Yeah, just when you
Well,
need.
Kim was really something. Kim was the homecoming queen. She was the princess of the May Day. She was the it girl in the whole school, and so she had no shortage of guys coming
Attention.
after her.
She picked him.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, what the hell, John?
Who knows how that happened?
It girl?
Got the it girl.
So the surfboards got better, is what you're saying, right?
Well, they had.
She wasn't going to date the loser.
That's really funny.
Wow.
They were somewhat less than thrilled to have her marrying a surfboard builder. But hey, I got a job. I'm working down in San Diego.
That's cool. So, so you got the Gordon and Smith gig.
Yep.
You were a production shaper for them. Is that what you were doing?
They had 4 daytime guys, 4 nighttime guys, and I did I think probably 3 months there. Kim and I got married. We moved to Hawaii, and I was building boards on the North Shore in our little carport. And Kim was selling Avon on the North Shore. She had a big territory.
The Avon lady.
Yes, the Avon lady.
So there's nothing, the hot Avon lady always sells tons of it.
She'd go out there and all these sailor guys would be hitting on her.
I bet she killed it. Always tan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a tough gig.
Yeah.
But then she became pregnant with Peter, and we figured we had to kind of up our game and come back to the mainland. And we actually, when we got married, we had got in my Volkswagen bus with my new wife and a board and traveled north, and we got as far north as Santa Cruz. We actually camped at Manresa back in the old days when you could camp there.
Wow.
So when we were in Hawaii, and we figured, well, we probably got to go back to the mainland, and where do we want to be? And we started thinking about Santa Cruz, and we heard, there's not a whole lot of board builders there. It takes a long time to get boards built. So we came up
There you
here, and Yep.
I actually heard that your first shop was right around
The first
Portola.
shop is where Diane
And they're
was.
trying to make that like a historical.
They did. They got a little
Did they
plaque
get
there.
it?
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
like
well,
a
the blown out
historical-
blown out wetsuit,
Yeah,
right?
they're because it was the first Freeline shop. That was a big part of
Yeah.
getting that
They tried to
designation.
do, they did a thing where they did the surf shops from the '60s, and I think we opened there in '69. So we kind of just got under the thing there, and then we were there for about 6 months, and I figured location was pretty important, so I moved to 41st, and we were up there where the Best Western is now. That was our first shop.
So you've had 4 shops on this street.
Yep.
Plus Portola. And
Plus
it was
Portola.
Did you live in the Portola
No,
shop?
no,
Okay.
that was just a little. That was about as big as your back area here.
I heard a story. Maybe you told me this that you used to like glass boards on the kitchen table or something, right?
No, what happened was when we were there in the North Shore, and Kim would go off to sell Avon, and I was building boards in the carport, but then to gloss it, the final step.
No dust.
No, so I'd sneak into the kitchen, put it out on the table, and do the glossing. She'd come back, and you've been in here again, damn it!
I love that story.
He made a couple of boards by gluing together scraps from the blanks. After cutting out other boards, he took the scraps, glued them together, made his own blank, and I think you had a board made out of 13
I did.
pieces.
I actually remember that too.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that until
Yeah.
you.
Well, I always thought that you were. I remember one time you traded like a board for like 2 milk crates full of weird fins, and you.
From Bill Luke.
Yeah, and those fins. I mean, they just kind of got reshaped and glassed on, but.
Well, that was an experimental time, and that's when boards started getting shorter, and everybody was trying everything, and there was wild paint jobs, and it was a very experimental time. So.
Do you ever look back at all the people you've like? I mean, I'm one of them, but there's so many people that you like helped along the way.
I don't know about help, but I've been fortunate to be affiliated with a lot of wonderful people in this town.
Yeah.
Great shapers, glassers, shop people that worked for us. We had people that usually our MO and Freeline, we'd start them out as what we call rinse groms. We used to do a rental business, and they'd have the renters come back. We'd have these, kids that were 12 or 13 years old, and they'd wash out the thing, and we'd give them a little store credit, and
Yeah.
In my case, 19 years old.
You were the rinse.
guy.
You were the rinse.
we hired those that needed help.
Yeah.
You were the rinse guy
Oh yeah, that's how I
at
started.
19.
Well,
No, you were right.
no, I was like 18 or 19. Well, my friend Charlie got a job. Charlie Lyon got a job working for John, doing airbrush and stuff. And Charlie was a high school friend of mine. And I didn't have a job, so I hung out.
Huh.
And then David taught me how to polish surfboards.
There you go.
And that's how
You're
I
going up
got
the
in.
chain.
Yeah. And suddenly I was a polisher.
John, what's your first recollection of TC?
I'll have to defer to Mike.
I
I didn't realize that you were a rinse grom either. I remember you working in the factory. That was when
Yeah,
you were.
I started at the factory.
Yeah.
I started at the
Yeah.
factory because I was a polisher, and then I got a job working in the shop,
retail store.
in the retail
Yep,
store,
yep.
and then I ended up working at all 3 stores for you, and we got wetsuits connections,
Yeah.
and I was getting wetsuits from Greg Wade at Victory Wetsuits.
Who's still at,
Greg Excel. He's not at Excel anymore. He's
Really?
he's not at Excel. And then I got offered the job to rep, and that was I was with Larry Block,
Yep,
and
yep.
it was all through the surf shop. Like my career started in Freeline, like where I am today, 100% started through Freeline because I was able to learn how to build surfboards. Through surfing and being in retail, I got relationships with vendors that you had relationship with,
Yeah.
and that's how my life started.
Well, one of the things that's really wonderful about the surf community is it's a big brotherhood.
Right.
You can go anywhere in the world almost, and if you're a surfer, you can usually form a bond with people of a like spirit, and that's what makes it pretty special.
And what's funny about John is that as I look back and after I left Freeline in like 1991 or 2, John has a reputation of being the guy that paid your bills. That's a compliment in this industry, right? You have to admit, you write.
I don't know. I just pay my bills.
You pay your bills, and like the entire time I worked for John, there was never a late paycheck, ever.
Right.
Never. You that was your style.
Got to keep your people happy.
Well, that's a rare style in our industry.
Huh.
It really is. And it constantly through the years I've heard that about you, is that you always handled your business. And that's such a compliment in this industry.
It is. Well, thank
Because
you.
that's a really rare thing. And today, like I said, you said, oh, well, that was nice what you said about me on my social media. But it's true. I look back on, that's a life lesson for me. Like, I want to pay the bills, and it goes back to kind of how you instilled that in me, so it's cool.
Coach.
So go ahead.
What was your greatest highlight there next door
The greatest highlight there next door.
for you? Just someone that kind of stands out. I mean, maybe it's the poker game from seeing the boardroom. And,
There's so many fun memories there. I mean, it was really part of my social scene.
yeah.
For a long time, I worked in the store a lot, and then I kind of started cutting back. But one of the joys is going in there. I mean, I even still do it now, even though it's infrequently. Is going and seeing your friends, or seeing your friends' kids, or your friends' kids' kids. There's generations there, and the social interaction that you get has always been pretty important to me.
And if you
John worked every Saturday. If you wanted to see John Mel,
every Saturday,
guaranteed
That
you
was
were
my
there every Saturday for his entire life. You worked every
Until recently.
Well, no, I'm saying
yeah.
recently, yes, no, but during that time, like you had your guys who knew that they could come and see you on Saturday and order a custom surfboard, because there used to be a time that's how you bought a surfboard.
That's what I always found really enjoyed about it is the interaction with people.
Yeah.
I mean, when I worked for Gordon, we were doing production shaping and doing the same thing over and over, and that was really good because I was able to learn. But I always enjoyed the interaction of talking to people and figuring out what they wanted
Right.
and kind of giving my input. And
your career as a kneeboarder, when did that start? Did it start because you're having trouble getting up, or did it
No,
start
not
because
really.
you wanted?
I started kneeboarding in San Diego. I actually hung out with some pretty good kneeboarders there. Bunker Spreckles, who you probably have heard of.
Bunker Spreckles, what a great name that is.
Bunker was the stepson of Clark Gable, I guess, and heir to the Spreckles fortune. And at the time, he was going to school at Cal Western, which is right there on the cliffs at Sunset Cliffs. And I sort of met him through, some mutual friends. And I remember building a few boards for Bunker. And at the time, they really weren't preparing him for managing his, his fortune. He was on a small allotment of money, so I remember trading surfboards for stems and seas. But there were some other kneeboarder guys that I played boards for there. So
There was a lot of trading.
That's
going
gonna
on
be
back then.
see, that's gonna be the name. That's gonna be the name of our new pot store. See, stems and
Stems
seeds.
and seeds.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, I think that you are probably one of the most consistent kneeboarders of all time. It's when you look back.
Well, no, that's not really. I don't know. I don't think that's true as much because there's really a small kneeboarding community, and the average age probably is about 50. So most of them they're not a lot of young kneeboarders.
Exactly. Well, you've traveled. You've been to world championships.
World champ for three consistent years. But in my age bracket,
Hang on.
which is
Fact checker, is that correct?
That is correct.
that is
Uh-huh.
correct. So a couple of the heats weren't a lot of entries, but
lot of
my own.
A win's a win.
Hey,
A
no,
win's a
exactly. A win's a win, and
Yeah.
it's the effort to get there.
Yeah.
You went to New Zealand, right? You go to New
No,
Zealand?
people, some of my younger friends would say, "Oh, you're really inspirational. You're still doing it." So that felt good.
Well, I remember you made boards for Hank Baker. I think another 3-time national champion kneeboarder back in the day.
Back in the WSA days, when Doc was running contests, they had a kneeboard division. There was a fair number of kneeboarders. It's kind of diminished over time, but there's a really tight kneeboard community around the world. Every other year, they have a world championship. The last one they had in Portugal, I think, last year. The next one, I think, is actually in South Africa, maybe at J Bay. So the thing is, they used to sort of keep, like Dr. Scott used to make a new division as he got older. So the last division I was in was called
Super C.
ROB, the Australian guys. ROB. I had a trophy that said ROB, John Mel, whatever year it was, and people would come in and go, "Who's Rob?" and I said, "Well, that actually stands for really old bastard." so I have another friend that lobbied for a
Better name?
and he came up with Immortals.
Immortal?
Immortals.
Love that.
How's a kneeboard differently shaped from a regular surfboard?
Well, it's usually shorter and wider. The fins are usually farther forward, are probably the major differences.
Well, those old fishes are hot for these retro dudes surfing them now.
People used to come in all the time and buy old, kneeboards out of the used rack and surf them. I mean, if you look at a contemporary modern shortboard now, it probably has less volume than a kneeboard that's 5'6" or 5'8" or 5'10". So.
Well, they got really weird for a while. I've seen like kneeboards turn into like little longboards almost for a while there.
Yeah, there's. I mean, one of the things really fun about the World Kneeboarding Championships, you go to other places and see other stuff. And I remember the first event I went to in New Zealand. There was a lot of. It was in New Zealand. There aren't a lot of board builders down there, so there's a lot of guys that built their own boards. And I saw some of the most amazing stuff.
Wow,
in the water there. I thought this is pretty cool.
Because it seems like Australia is still pretty keen on kneeboarding,
Australia
right?
is probably the
hot
biggest
spot.
population. Yeah.
Huh, that's really cool. We'll jump forward a little bit because your son Peter, as we all know, boy, did he really make a name for himself in surfing.
Peter's done very well. He was in the right place at the right time. He had, he started going to the North Shore. I think he was probably 14 or 15. He started going with the crew of Santa Cruz guys over to the North Shore. So he started riding, big waves when he was relatively young. And, he's done quite well at it.
I mean, he must be proud, right?
No, absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely. And, his career as a broadcaster, I'm very proud of that as well. And he's also mentoring my grandson, who's also named John Mel.
Right.
Riding Mavericks now, so I got another.
Charger.
Were you happy when John was born and they named him John Mel?
Well, he sort of had to do that. My grandfather was named John Mel. My father was named Peter Mel. I was John Mel. I had a Peter. He had a John. So if John ever has a kid,
Did you have him in a headlock in the hospital? You better be on there.
didn't have to. I think that he and Tara knew that it was going to be a boy, and I think he knew it sort of probably had to be John.
And currently, so people who don't know, you've kind of retired from the retail surf shop life. And Peter and his wife Tara have taken it over.
Yep.
And so you get to drive by, and Freeline's still here. And
I do what I call guest appearances. That's what Peter used to do. He would come by.
Yes.
But now they've done a wonderful job, and I still come into, it's
You're still driving the Freeline van, aren't you?
Well, I get Peter lets me use it sometimes.
Well, what's funny now is John makes guest appearances there now. So the tradition continues.
It does. I was actually kind of hoping that somebody would want to step into the shaping room and take over that part of it. Peter actually was a pretty good shaper when we started working together. We do what I call tag team shaping. I'd rep him out and he would finish them. He had a good knack for it. You can tell from his commentary, he's kind of into surfboards. He's pretty technical and stuff. And he was doing a good job. And then unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, he hooked up with John Carper, who's a very renowned shaper from Hawaii. And John's a wonderful guy, and he took very good care of Peter. But he kept giving him boards, and he sort of lost his incentive to shape boards. So we lost him. And, John, I've worked with John a little bit, but he's pursuing a professional surfer career.
And he's with CI now.
And he's doing great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's got a great program going on and ripping. And I think I really look forward to seeing, as we talk about Peter and his career and his accolades, I feel like what's next for John? Because John's on a tear right now. Yep. He's winning really high-powered events, and and he's been getting a great reputation. Yeah, the future is really bright.
Yep.
Yeah,
but you need a backup career to be a.
I was going to ask that. What's his backup?
Well, we're working on that. He's fully committed, which is what you need to do. I mean, to compete at that level that he's at now, you got to work out, you got to train, you got to have a coach. Yeah. So there's a lot into it, and it would be good to have something in back. I mean, basically, our shop's been in business for 54 years now. I don't foresee it going into the dumper. So, eventually Peter may turn it over to John. So he has a backup position, I think.
I would absolutely think that that's what's going to happen. The Freeline name is. Plus, you guys have the building. Yep. And so there's such an anchor place there that no matter what happens with John, he'll always have Freeline. And so I think that's a. And I saw Pete the other day, and he's like, I'm thinking about being semi-retired, just to let you know. What? Yeah, just to let you know. Pete may be working on that already, and Pete, if you're watching, you know you told me that. And so, we'll see.
Are you enjoying surfing, you know, how it's blown up, or are you indifferent about it and wish it was back to the old days?
It's wonderful in terms of the sport, more people to share. I mean, it's a wonderful sport. I don't surf as much as I used to, but I certainly enjoy it as much as I ever did. And, you know, if you have a bad day on land, you can go out and get in the water, and if you don't catch a bunch of waves,
Yeah.
it just kind of cleanses your soul. So
Yeah.
I think that's something that's not ever going to change.
I always say you can't bring your cell phone in the ocean.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
so it's what a disconnect it is. So I agree with that. We always like to ask this. Do you know how many surfboards you've shaped?
Well, up here I've done about 15,400 and something.
Okay, awesome.
I didn't number them in Southern California. I actually had a surf shop in Santa Cruz. I mean, in San Diego when I was working for Larry Gordon. He wasn't too thrilled when he heard that. But
That was that one.
And in the old days, Tim used to draw a little yin and yang thing that was John Mel surfboards. And about probably 20 years ago, somebody called me up and said, you know, I found this board in a barn up in Oregon that said John Mel surfboards. You know, I could tell he was trying to pimp me to trade for a new board or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I'm not really a collector, but, you know, it'd be fun if you ever come down here, you know, bring it in, we'll take a look at it. And so 6 months later, he comes in the door and brings this thing in, and oh my God.
You didn't want it?
Well,
You wanted
it was very embarrassing. But the classic, it might have been Charlie, I don't remember who said it, but, gee, John, do they have planers in those things?
Oh, boy. It's funny because in my life, it seems like shapers aren't collectors of their boards. You know,
Not really. I mean, you know, I don't think they are. I mean, look at Doug. Doug doesn't collect it.
Yeah.
One of the best shapers that's ever been up here, you know, and he doesn't collect them. And
Yeah. Do you have one? Do you have one you
I
wish
have
you got
several.
back?
I have several. There's some in the room.
I've seen a
your
few
shop
in there.
here.
Yeah.
You know, I have some, and some they come in and I recognize them, and I remember who I made them for, you know, and it brings back a good memory. And some I have no clue.
Right.
We had one that came back in the shop that was a kind of a mid-sized shortboard and had a picture of Marilyn Monroe on the bottom. And I mean, there's a distinctive airbrush, but I don't remember that board at all. And we tried to figure out who. I think Gary Irving, I think Hobbs had painted it.
Huh.
But I would have thought a board like that, I would definitely have a memory of it.
You would think so.
Well, I
would think
yeah. Well, 15,000. You know, it can get a little blurry sometimes. I
It
get
is. That's
that.
15,000 times you're sniffing resin, too.
Yeah,
Well,
there was that.
You know, it's going back to that custom surfboard thing. I remember you used to have this deal that you would have a shaping appointment, and
used to
you'd
enjoy doing that.
bring people into the shaping
Yeah,
room,
we used
and
to
you
do
would
it in the
watch. I mean, I got a bunch of those from you, and
Yeah.
it was so awesome to watch you shape the board.
Yeah.
And it's such a missing link in surfboards now.
It's a different sport now. I mean, the computers do a lot of the work, and that's really advanced board design by a bunch. The replication of designs has you know, that's been very important in that aspect. But I always enjoyed that. You know, I mean, the guy could come in there and he can kind of. I remember different guys go, wow, it needs to be a little less blocky in the rail. You know, you were able to get a little input, and that was, you know, I enjoyed doing that.
So 15,000 boards. How many planers?
I've got them all I've ever had. I probably have.
You've saved every planer.
Well, they're some of them are carcasses.
Well, I remember at the factory there was parts. We'd grab like triggers and bushings out of them.
You got to kind of, you know,
Yeah.
like your sport, like your racing
Exactly,
cars.
yeah.
Exactly the same gig.
If we talk, we can talk for hours, and all the characters that you've met, going through your career. Have you ever thought putting pen to paper and writing it all down in a book?
You know, I have. I've done it. Occasionally, I get a little bug in my butt. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to be an English teacher before I got up and building boards. My father was a teacher. I think, well, I'll be an English teacher now.
Yeah.
When I did my fleeting moments of educational endeavor, I wanted to do that, and I've put a little bit to pen to paper, but I figure as I'm semi-retired, it'd be a good time to do it, maybe. So.
Yeah.
Well, your story is awesome because I feel like it's almost like the last of the Mohicans. You know, it really is. Of that total custom surfboard, dedicating your life to it, and then having the family be involved.
Yep.
Generations.
Well, I always felt like the people that work for us, like you and like several other people, were all part of the big family there. So that was a special feeling that we had at Freeline, I think.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And today I did a little post on there, and I got messages, and it was really cool because I feel like how you affected me, you affected so many people in what you've done through these years that you probably don't even realize it. Seriously,
That's very gratifying.
Yeah, but I mean, if as I look back on your career and Freeline and what it represents in this town, there's just not a lot of that owner-operated, long-term dedication, and I'm really proud to even be a part of it, and to look back and see what you've done. I know you dedicated always to everything. You had such a community vibe to Freeline. I mean, every surf contest Freeline donated to.
Right.
It's like every longboard contest, Memorial Day, there was a Freeline board on the rack over there every time. It's pretty amazing. I wanted to just circle back one more time about Kim, because I mean, we recently lost Kim. You know that. How's life? I mean,
it's okay. I mean, the way I got through it was my family, the support of my family, and my friends. Kim fought cancer for probably 5 years. It started out as cervical cancer. She went and had some operations. They said, in fact, I think you were there, Michael, but the doctor told us, well, I think we got it all, should be good. And then probably less than a year later, it had moved up into her chest, become lung cancer. They dealt with that with chemotherapy. They thought they had gotten it there. We were over in Hawaii, and she started having trouble with her left side. We took her to the ER on Kauai, and they found that they had a kind of a walnut-sized tumor in her brain. Came home, they cut that out. She recovered from that. Okay, I think we're good.
Yeah.
And within a couple of months, it had grown back. They went in again. And all through that, I mean, she had wonderful doctors. We had people in town here and people up at Stanford. They were super supportive. And she got through that. And then finally, after she had the second brain surgery, they started, well, we got to scan you every 3 months or so. And she had the second surgery done. They had her scanned again, and it basically moved through her body. And I think that's when we kind of both realized that it was probably going to be the
Yeah.
And, it was very tough. I mean, I feel very gratified to hospice. Hospice was wonderful. I was able to be with her right till the end there, And it was, I was with her for 53 years. She was my wife, my lover, my best friend for all those years.
Yeah.
And to lose her was very tough. But, I had my family support, and I have a bunch of very close, tight friends that got me through it. So I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyone who has loss knows.
It's tough. That became my job for 2 years. I was her caretaker, when we were driving to Stanford, every other week or so, and all that. And, I have other friends that are going through similar kind of things, That's just what you do. If you care about somebody, that's what you do.
It's interesting because the last time I saw Kim, we were out back. And we had a talk. And it was so awesome because it was pretty close towards the end.
Yeah.
But she was happy.
Yeah.
And stoked,
She was here. I remember she was here for poker night.
Well,
she did some
She did poker nights, But first off, I'm sorry because I loved Kim. She was awesome.
Yeah.
We
all loved her.
I
was very lucky to. I married way above my pay grade.
Behind every man's a better woman, right? So
you know that.
I know that one. Yeah, no, I get it. And so I just first off, I know how tough that was. Kim was awesome, and the fact she put up with you blasting surfboards on the table and just
in the
bringing
kitchen,
foam dust home. The house smelled like resin. So bless her for putting up with you. So I think that's amazing.
Can we talk about the poker night just for 1 second? So out of you and your brother, who's likely to lie the most and bluff the most?
For sure, this guy.
I think I do.
You? Who bluffs the most?
Are you lying and bluffing now?
He is. I don't know.
I think I do, but what's your impression?
I think you do too.
Yeah. Okay. So
But,
we agree on that.
but I could be bluffing about that.
I don't know. I do know that Michael plays by the rules.
Every time I played, sat down with him, he took my damn money. 5 minutes.
I know, but you better pay attention because you can't like put your bet down out of order. Or, you know, like,
Well, are you going to bring your ringers in if we?
I'll try.
The ringers.
I did, so, just so you guys know, we've had a long-term battle between the boardroom and Freeline
Now,
on a poker tournament.
Where's the trophy?
I don't know.
I got the trophy.
Oh, you have the trophy?
Okay,
We found the trophy.
Yeah, well,
Where it is.
I think Freeline
Been
won
there for a
more.
long time.
Well, but yeah, because we
So we
did
have
a
to,
little.
we have to invite Fig back. Fig play poker?
Yeah.
I
Oh, my
played
God.
2 of those games. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh, you did?
I remember you brought food.
Yeah, we had food.
I was the only one that wasn't
Lied to?
wasted.
I think the trick was these guys brought the booze.
Yeah,
They
the-
get us
no.
wasted.
Your boys did. The
that-
first game we
Steve
had.
Salyer bought that Chinese moonshine
That's
shit.
right, the Chinese bootleg
Moonshine.
The moonshine.
You know what? That was a good move because it gave us a feeling of overconfidence.
We were all
It did.
drunk.
Because we thought it would affect you, and it didn't.
I think if we look back in the history of the poker tournament, I think Freeline won more than the boardroom.
Yeah.
I think we
Oh,
can all
yeah, I
agree
think-
on that.
yeah, that's-
yeah. Because I think we drank.
But it
a
was
little
good
too much.
fun.
It was good fun.
And nobody lost their house.
And
or
we
their
are
business.
planning a poker
Okay,
night, and
absolutely.
we're not going to have teams. It's going to be a
Free-for-all.
basic tournament, free for all.
I'm in.
So,
All right.
and I think we're going to do it live on the show. We're going to have a show that night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so we'll share it with all of you at the next.
Are you going to
poker tournament.
reveal the thing like they do? And that's what changed poker when they started showing
The
old
hands.
cards. That's when poker blew up.
Yeah, no,
you
it's
know?
gigantic. I just watched a guy just won $12 million the other night.
Wow.
Yeah, 12 million playing poker. Now our pots, I think it went
12
to
bucks.
$160 or something. You
Yeah.
know, but-
Friendships in $20.
Yeah.
You can buy in a couple of times, so nobody lost their house or their
yeah, it's good stuff. I wanted to jump, Michael. Your history. You were saying earlier that you were involved in the early skateboarding
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Just fill us in a little bit about what
Well,
that was.
like I said earlier, I started surfing about 10 or 11 or so, and the surf where we grew up wasn't that good, so there was a lot of downtime, and so we started skateboarding. We made our own skateboards, and then skateboards became a thing in the early 60s. I was lucky, and I won the 1965 national championship.
world champ.
Another champion in the house.
What the heck? Jeez, did he rub that in on you? Did he remind you about
Actually,
that?
I wasn't going to be in the contest, and John is the one who pushed me to enter it.
Wow.
So I won the contest. It turned out that 2 guys who were in the audience had just graduated with master's degrees from UCLA Film School, and they wanted to make a movie about skateboarding. And so it ended up, we made this movie called Skater Dater. It's 18 minutes long, short subject. And it turned out they were really talented. It got nominated for Academy Award in 1965
Wow.
or 66. It won the grand prize at the Cannes Film Festival.
Wow.
For a couple of years around then, people would recognize me from the movie because it played it played with Thunderball, which was an early James Bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people saw it.
The chicks recognize.
So you get the girl, you get the girls?
Chicks for dads. You gotta go straight to it.
That's the good part. The bad part is, I peaked at age 12.
Yeah, it was all over.
Yeah.
It was
At
all
13, you were no one.
over. Well, by 13 or 14, we kind of got away from skateboarding. At least the little group that I was part of, and I continued to surf. And of course, I also went to Santa Barbara.
And made it through.
The only schools I considered were schools that had good surf. And I went to Santa Barbara, and then I went on to grad school at UCLA, which was a completely different experience. And just as I got older and had kids, had less time to surf, and it became a less dominant part of my life.
Do you still have a surfboard?
I still have a couple of Freeline boards. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
Still on the team.
Still on the team.
We made a trip. I got in with John's group, and we went to Cardone and had a really good week of just nothing but lefts all week.
Excellent.
That was pretty.
Oh, so
great.
you're a goofy footer
Goofy
too?
footer. Stream.
Yeah.
Damn. And Dave's not. Dave's a regular.
Dave's a regular.
Yeah.
Peter's a regular. When
Yeah.
John was born and started surfing, Peter tried to twist him and make him regular foot.
It didn't work.
You can't do that. He's a goofy foot. Yeah, I may not make
Are
him a
you
knee
stoked?
footer, but goddamn,
Are you
he's a
stoked
knee
he's a goofy
Yes,
footer?
yeah.
Actually,
Yes!
I got into kneeboarding because I was a goofy foot. One of the best breaks during my college years in Santa Barbara, El Capitan. I don't know if you've ever
Yeah,
surfed
of course.
there.
Sean Thompson's favorite wave.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't break very often, but when it's good, it's really good. But it's not a really fun wave for a goofy footer. And so I started kneeboarding, and it turned out one of my best friends, Kenny Hughes, was from Ocean Beach in San Diego, and his best friend was Steve Liss,
The kneeboard fish guy.
yeah, the fish guy. So I kind of fell in with those guys, and John made me kneeboards, and they approved. Steve and Kenny approved of the boards John was making for me, so I became hooked on that. It was really good for me.
Wow. John, what was the last board you shaped?
I shaped a longboard for a gentleman 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Cool.
I remember I made a red board, and the red board with that's a board I
That
remember.
was
I
my
think,
El Capitan board.
I think we traded boards with. I got to ride that there too.
Yeah,
That was
a really good board.
Kneeboard?
Kneeboard.
knee board. Yeah.
Wow. And did you make your own fins too back then?
We used to. I mean, I see some of the boards that come back into the shop that Peter's got hanging there. And, before Rainbow. Actually, Rainbow started the same year that we did. Kim and I were living on Orchard Street in SoCal, and Tom Knight and Glenn, Tom's grandparents, I think, owned the grocery store there, and then the chicken coop in the back. That's where they started Rainbow Fins. So we both started our.
Was that on Thompson Avenue?
No, this is before that.
Before that?
This is in SoCal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, with the chicken coop.
Well, it was interesting because everybody in Santa Cruz used rainbow fins.
Yeah.
And it's so different now with the way the fin business is.
Yeah.
But when you got a surfboard in the 70s and 80s, you just got rainbow fins whether you liked it or not.
And they're still going.
Yeah.
Second generation, Sarah. And
Yeah.
I think actually Glenn and Kathy's still working there a little bit. But Sarah's kind of running it.
Yeah.
So it's a family-run business, and they're still doing great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's really cool to see. Well, I just want to thank you for coming by tonight, John.
Okay, well, hey, it's been fun.
Yeah, it's really cool to catch up and.
Got me to remember shit I didn't remember. So.
Well, we had fact checker.
And we had fact checker.
Michael, the fact
Didn't get too
checker.
far.
How'd we do? Was he pretty clear tonight?
Well, yeah, I think he was truthful and honest and accurate. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's awesome. Okay, well, but we'll have to. Maybe we can make this a yearly thing for John.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 'Cause I know there's-
Let's get in some of the next generations too.
yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it would.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of what my family's
You should be very proud. I mean, my gosh. I mean, in my opinion, the Mel family is surfing royalty, and you guys have earned that. It's not. That is not. You can't buy that.
Kill those kids out in the water.
Well,
Give the
yeah,
old gray
yeah.
guy away.
Yeah. If you see John Mel in the water, spread it open. Give him lots of room.
He may be on a surf mat, but he's got a smile on his face.
But no, I really mean that, John. You have you have earned everything, and you deserve it.
Well, thank you, bro.
And it's I'm really proud to be a part of it, and I'm thankful because I truly say my life today would not be what it is if I didn't learn from you. So I really do mean that sincerely. So,
Thank you, bro.
Michael, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Great to have you and be a fact checker. Neil, we got a poker tournament coming up.
Oh, I'm ready
Yeah,
to go. How
I
about
know.
are the dart tournaments coming up too?
Dart tournament's coming up too.
I'm gonna get Fig in your.
yeah.
I'm gonna get Fig in that chair real
Sure,
quick.
Fig, jump in my chair.
Okay,
Get in here.
so
Watch out! Watch out! Watch out!
I brought some
No, we don't
souvenirs.
care about that. We want to hear about the new sandwich coming out.
Well, this
The new sandwich coming out is
First of
what?
all, I wanted to say my very first board I
Yeah.
bought off the rack.
Yeah,
It was a 5'7",
yeah.
free line. It was used. It had the row panels glossed right into the rails, and it was a sunburst. Took to San Diego, rode that thing for 5 years. I brought it up here too, and then I evolved.
It's funny, everybody remembers their first board. It's like their first girlfriend.
It was my first board.
I put my
as a
first. I
kneeboard.
put my
I
first.
still have my first board.
Oh,
I do. So I
Okay,
left
what's
it in
it-
my parents' garage. And my dad called me like
Real quick.
20 years later. He's like, I'm throwing it away. And I was like, no.
Dad, no.
Yeah.
The new sandwich is what?
So we had a new sandwich. We're out here for the week. It is called the Pescado Diablo, and it's an Alaskan cod beer battered cod fillet.
There we go.
That's got avocado ranch, pico de gallo. It's on a French roll with ghost pepper jack, so it's got some heat to it and some lettuce. But it's
Check
killer.
that out. Surf City Sandwich is right up the street here on SoCal Avenue. At the end of 41st Avenue, you can't miss it. So just keep driving down 41st Avenue, you're going to run into it, so you can't miss it.
It's right at the end. Yep.
What else you got?
Okay, so
So wait,
we also have a shop in Gilbert, Arizona. It's been going for 3 years. Shop here is going strong for 8 years. A year from now, we're opening a tiki bar
Yes.
and restaurant called Surf City Lounge in a 40-acre surf resort in Mesa called Cannon Beach. So I brought gifts for you guys.
Thank you.
And these are my new tiki mugs that I designed for our tiki bar.
Sweet.
That this is my design.
Oh,
And it
that's
was
sick.
sculpted by a guy named Squid, top tiki artist in the world. And Tiki Diablo, who's the Picasso of the tiki world, he produced them. It actually says Fig and Squid and his company on the bottom. So this is for you, John.
Oh, wow. Thank you, man.
And
That's
I got,
awesome.
I got one.
Is that for the Mai Tais at the new restaurant?
It is. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So we're gonna, this thing. So we're gonna. It's gonna have. It's gonna be a tiki bar, a surf themed tiki bar, open air Hawaiian style with a view of the entire surf resort.
Wow.
It's
And this has a wave pool, a skate park, a BMX
Yes.
track, like the whole deal.
yeah, all of that. I got one for you.
Wow. Check
And I
that
got
thing
one
out.
for you, Neil.
Thank
and
you.
yours is.
Hey, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so I designed.
You get that right
So
there? Look at
this
that.
design came from a doodle that I did 2 years ago.
Huh,
I was
that's
an
awesome.
art major before I became a chef.
There it is
and
right
it's
there.
just
Surf
Sweet.
City Lounge.
We got
And
one
wait, how long until this Cannon Beach
a
opens?
year from now.
1 year from
Oh no!
now?
Next
Oh.
spring, the surf park will be open to the public. The wave pool is the size of 2 football fields side by side. It's the first of its kind. It's an A-frame peak that's going to break 50 yards in each direction every 30 seconds, shoulder to head
You
high.
see a freelance surf shop right
Is
there.
is it more affordable than going to the surf ranch?
It's going to be less than $100 an hour.
$100 an hour.
Less than $100.
way less
Sweet.
than the surf ranch.
What I got.
That's awesome. Look at these things. They're
Yeah,
so cool.
Thanks everybody for listening tonight. Thank you so much.
Fig,
Mr.
thank
John
you
Mel.
for this.
You want
Hey,
Mr.
can we do,
Michael
hey,
Mel?
real quick, what's that sandwich again with the cod? Go over that one more time.
Pescado Diablo?
It's Pescado
And
Diablo.
It's beer battered cod.
Yeah, ghost pepper jack cheese, pico de gallo, and it also has avocado ranch.
Sounds awesome.
Check this show out on YouTube, also all major podcast platforms, and next week's guest, really good.
Okay.
Elon Musk's best friend, help build the Tesla. God knows what else he's doing right now, but a super intelligent, unbelievable guy. He wants to be on the show.
I love it. That
What
sounds
the
awesome.
heck?
That sounds
Mr.
awesome.
Toby Corey will be here next week. Thanks everybody. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.